Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating and, frankly, crucial piece of history. We're looking at the foreign policy of British India. And here's the twist. It wasn't really for India at all. We're going to explore how pretty much every major conflict on its borders was all about serving the strategic and economic goals of the British Empire. And this quote right here, this is the heart of the whole story. It really lays it all out. Every single treaty that was signed, every border that was drawn, every war that was fought, well, it was all designed to help Great Britain, not the people who actually lived on the subcontinent. So what were these interests exactly? Well, you can probably guess. It boiled down to expanding commercial and economic power. The foreign policy of British India basically became this incredibly powerful tool for the empire to secure trade routes, get into new markets, and, protect its financial investments. Okay, to really see how this worked in the real world, let's start with our first case study, Nepal. Back in 1801, the British East India Company's territory just kept growing until it bumped right up against the Gorkha Kingdom. And just like that, you've got these two expanding powers staring each other down across a border that nobody had really bothered to define. So for over a decade, you had these simmering border disputes. Then, the man in charge, Governor-General Lord Hastings, basically decided enough was enough. In 1814, he made it official and declared war. This single decision would end up completely redefining the northern border of British India. The result, of course, was the Anglo-Nepal War. With Lord Hastings at the helm, the conflict ended with something called the Treaty of Saguli. And listen, this wasn't just some small skirmish. This was a full-blown war that had huge, lasting consequences for the entire region. And that Treaty of Sugoli? Oh, it was a massive victory for the British. They walked away with a huge chunk of territory, including the Kuman-Gardwal regions, and they got to settle that border dispute completely on their own terms. A total win for the empire. All right, let's move on. A very similar story played out in Burma, but this one was a slow burn, happening over a much longer time. The British involvement here wasn't just one war. It was a series of 3 wars that spanned more than 60 years. And as we're about to see, the reasons for fighting changed. A lot. Yep. 3 separate wars, each one led by a different governor-general. You had Lord Amherst, then Lord Dalhousie, and finally Lord Dufferin. This shows you it wasn't a quick grab. It was this systematic, decades-long project of expanding British influence. Now, this is where it gets really telling. The First Anglo-Burmese War, you could kind of explain it away as a reaction to border clashes. But by the time the Second War came around, the real motives were crystal clear. It was driven almost entirely by good old-fashioned British commercial greed. They wanted control of Burma's valuable coastline and its sea trade. The takeover was so methodical. The First War got Britain key territories. The second one secured the entire coastline. And the third one? That was the final move. Britain defeated the Burmese and just straight up annexed the entire country, absorbing it right into its empire. And that brings us to our final case study, Afghanistan. Here, the motivation shifts again. It's not about commerce anymore. It's about pure, hard-nosed geopolitical strategy. This was a major front in what historians call the Great Game, that intense 19th century rivalry between the British and Russian empires for control of Central Asia. The main reason behind 2 separate wars in Afghanistan was really simple. The British were terrified of growing Russian influence in the region. They saw a Russian-friendly Afghanistan as a direct threat to the stability of British India, the absolute jewel in the crown of their empire. So, under 2 different leaders, Lord Auckland and then Lord Lytton, Britain went to war. The first conflict is especially wild because it was a direct invasion with the express purpose of replacing the country's ruler. This wasn't just about influencing from a distance, this was about direct, hands-on control. The British actually had a clear 4-step playbook for this kind of regime change. Step 1, form a local alliance. 2, invade the country. 3, get rid of the guy in charge. And 4, install their own puppet leader, in this case, a man named Shah Shuja. It was a classic imperial strategy, laid out for all to see. I mean, this quote from our source material is just so blunt and powerful. It argues that the British had absolutely no justification for messing with Afghanistan's sovereign affairs. They didn't just try to influence foreign policy. They forcibly changed the country's internal leadership just to suit their own agenda. So, after looking at Nepal, Burma, and Afghanistan, we have to ask the most important question of all. All this expansion, all these wars fought to protect British interests. Who actually paid the price for all of it? And there's the answer. While this whole foreign policy was designed for Britain's benefit, it was India, its resources, its soldiers, its money that paid the cost. The wars were launched from India, they were financed by India, but they were fought for an empire an entire ocean away. And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? This history shows a very clear pattern where the entire machinery of one nation was used to build up the empire of another. It forces you to ask, when that happens, who's the one who truly pays the price in blood, treasure, and sovereignty? Something to really think about. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.